Good evening. And 2018 meeting of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
I am here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
I am here.
Mayor Winterfield?
Here.
We have a quorum.
There are no presentations scheduled for this evening, so at this time we'll do reports from volunteers. At this time are the reports or comments from any volunteers serving the community. Matt?
Matthew Garcia, 130 Boulevard. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm the teen head of the Teen Advisory Committee. So, good evening, council members. So, over the last week, I am supposed some of you know there's been issues up at Mountainside Park about a camping party and garbage left up there, likely by teens. This is not the first time there has been issues with teens, and this issue stems from the lack of things to do in this town. I have talked to friends and members of the Teen Advisory Committee, and they back me 100% when I say there is not much for teens to do in this town. Recently, the committee has talked about cost-efficient teen center conjoined with the proposed skate park. The idea is for a cost-effective teen center that would be using shipping containers. And I know you must say, wow, that's a really weird idea. However, in this very town, our high schools use shipping containers for the high school press boxes. And I personally have been inside them, and I must say they're quite nice on the inside. Besides that, there are other examples around the state and as well on TV shows based on remodeling called Container Homes on HGTV, and also in New York City and in Newark they have affordable housing made out of containers. What the Teen Advisory Committee is thinking of proposing to Parks and Rec is possibly locating the proposed teen center behind Town Hall, along with repaving the basketball courts and the skate park. The great thing about the shipping containers is that it's low cost. The most expensive thing would be buying the physical containers. With 3 to 4 containers, there would be a sizable roomy center with the basketball courts redone, and the skate park that's a nice addition, so there's stuff to do besides the actual center. Our proposal is focused on being low cost. This teen center would be mainly a community build. It could also be a pilot for a possible larger community teen center down the road. Once the containers are acquired, the inside can be furnished with electricity, etc. The Teen Advisory Committee, with help of the Skate Park Association, would ask for donations of items from local businesses in town and the surrounding areas to help support the actual furnishing of the inside of the center. I know, along with other advisory members, some main things that would be included would be Wi-Fi, a TV, some things to do, along with a mini classroom for other purpose events. Besides the actual teen center, the location could be off the rail trail. In order to access it, teens and preteens could ride their bikes or skateboard along the rail trail safely. This can be a center point in town to hang out. The other benefit of the teen center complex being behind Town Hall is that the police are next door neighbors, with the school resource officer speaking to council back in December about supporting the skate park. I'm sure he'd support this as well. I know the police really want to interact more with kids in this town, and this revamp of behind Town Hall would allow them to do it. To be able to do this proposed idea, we'd also need to revamp and get rid of the current baseball field behind town for space. After requesting scheduling of the baseball field and uses history, we were able to find this barrel used mainly by Chancellor Academy once a week and an adult baseball league, and sparsely by Little League. However, this town literally has over a dozen baseball fields for them to use, and I think this group will be able to schedule their practices and games on another field. Our idea would certainly be able to be used almost year-round, unlike the current baseball field that is there, which is used about 3 months a year. Now, why am I in front of council proposing this idea to you? Is that the Teen Advisory Committee and the adults behind this project are looking for feedback before a formal presentation to Parks and Recreation. This council has background from many areas in town, so we're interested in what they think and what their current concerns are. The group and I are behind this and are trying to improve Pequannock Township from a sleepy town to an interesting town where kids have more things to do other than organized sports or going to a friend's house. This is a great idea that would make Pequannock competitive with surrounding towns that are doing similar things and not put the town at a disadvantage when real estate agents try to sell to a new millennial family that is interested in an active town that supports alternative youth activities for their kids to do.
So, Matt, that's very good. I applaud you for wanting to do low-cost community center.
Yeah.
But I'm not so sure I'm convinced shipping containers would be the best idea. If we were to do something, I'd rather put money into it and not use shipping containers.
Do you have a picture, Matt, or no?
I could get you pictures of shipping containers if you need pictures of shipping.
No, I've seen them redone.
Yeah,
There's been some customized.
there's been some towns that have redone with the shipping containers, and it's looked very nice on the inside.
What I'd also like to look into is maybe some of the, instead of shipping containers, some of the used
Prefab,
office
yeah,
trailers and
prefab.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
like along those lines, like
Maybe spending a couple more bucks, but you get a bathroom,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
A shipping container, I don't know.
It's gonna be a lot of effort. That's my only worry. Jess, also, if you could contact, do you know Jess Moskowitz? I'm gonna totally mess up her last name, from the Pequannock Library. She has connections with other teen centers in other towns.
Yeah.
So she would be somebody to also talk to get some good ideas from other towns, what has worked for them.
Yep.
So,
I think we also need to wait and figure out what we're actually going to be doing. I know we did set a sizable amount for an architect for a possible new town hall, and which would probably be going in, if we're going to do it, in the back parking lot. And I wouldn't want to, do a teen center back there and then all of a sudden, have to put the kibosh on it because,
You're talking about a new town hall.
Right.
well, if you put the teen center back there and then.
Where you can't put a town hall.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what it is that is the best thing to do. So it's a great idea, but...
Matt, what are the dimensions of these things?
8 by 8 by 40.
Could be.
Yeah.
They're 40 foot by 8
Yeah.
by 8, yeah.
They could be 20-foot length.
Yeah, they can be whatever size you want. The ones at the high school aren't full-size shipping containers.
Yeah, they're 40 feet. I
You know
think.
what else I've seen? I don't know how expensive they are in addition to shipping containers or whether you build from scratches. I think they're called Butler buildings.
Yeah.
Butler, did you ever hear of Butler buildings?
Yeah, that's real-
that
yeah.
are less than, building a whole building. It's more like a prefab type of...
Well, I think Matt, probably what I get from what you're saying is you want something that can be done quickly,
Yeah.
as
we're
opposed to
looking-
waiting years.
Yeah, we're not looking for a 5-10 year plan like the current proposed town hall would be, and
Oh, okay.
we're looking for something that's like,
Well, I like the idea of a beta
Yeah.
test, cheap and quick, and let's see if a teen center would,
It's
if
almost
you
like
guys
a
would use it,
temporary-
right?
the great thing about it is that like it's able to move, it can be expanded for if there's demand for it,
Yeah, it would be nice to see a picture of it, because, if we can do something like that, where it's like a temporary type of thing, and see how it works, then it
Well,
can
you know
be
how
moved.
they
I guess
bring-
it's also similar to like what they do in Lincoln Park with that dome thing, but that's done for recreation. Well, I know that's not the same as shipping containers, but it's similar in
here's
the
a
sense
question.
that it's something different.
Adam, have we finalized the use of the trailers that we got from the castle?
They're expected to be moving next week, and if I could just underscore some of the comments from the council, there's a lot of good ideas out there, there's a lot of different things we can do. I think one of the challenges, I know you're looking for something that can be done quickly, but the budget process is something that takes time,
Yes.
it's planning. So, not to put this off as a component of the master plan, I don't know how familiar you are with the concept of land use and municipal
Yeah.
land use law, but being new to Pequannock, I've had the benefit of hearing a lot of different ideas, and I think there's a lot of great ideas out there. The challenge is which ones to do and when.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wise thing to move forward with making the presentation to the Recreation Commission, get their input and feedback.
Yep.
I appreciate you giving the council an idea of what's coming and can be discussed, and we can think about it come budget time. Reach out to me, we can sit down and have a conversation about some different stuff, but unfortunately, it's not something where in 3-6 months we can make something happen.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like 3 or 6 months. I'm talking like a year or two down the line. Like, I know it's not going to be like, because like government doesn't move that fast, unfortunately.
Right.
He stole your comment.
No,
yeah.
it certainly doesn't. But as a component of the master plan, the Teen Advisory Committee should be viewed as a stakeholder group, and they will be. Okay. So they'll get to have a voice to discuss what they think is a priority and where it should be.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the idea is a good idea, and just to reiterate what Adam said, the budget starts October, November, where he starts pulling that together for the next season. So when you're pulling your ideas together, I think the time is appropriate to vet that through Parks and Rec.
Okay.
You're also going to have to do quite a bit to it if we do containers for the winter, because
There's no
that's
heat,
that's going to be
Yeah, well,
that's going to be one.
The great thing about containers is that you're able to cut stuff out. So like, like a cut-in air conditioner or like a cut-in heater, that's all you have to do to it.
That heater will be running 324 hours a day with no insulation.
Well, it's better than kids hanging out up at Mountainside Park,
Yeah.
Give them a place to go.
Definitely have to talk about that.
I think pictures are worth 1,000 words. I think that's what you might need for the council and for the other people. Yeah, they're having trouble envisioning.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Yep.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No other volunteers? Okay. There being no additional public, we're going to public comment. The next item on the agenda is public comments. Public comments period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period of public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized, come to the microphone, and provide your name and address for the record. Go ahead, Donna.
Donna Satani, 117 Greenwood Ave, in Pequannock. I was just wondering if, Mr. Brewer, if you found out anything about noise ordinance with the council.
Yes, I have a lot of stuff to talk about, which will be as a component of my report as a follow-up from last meeting.
Oh, okay. All right, good, thanks.
You're welcome.
I was with her. I'm on Lisa McGrath, Greenwood Ave. I'm the same thing with the ordinance.
Yeah, Adam will address the castle issues. All right. Anyone else? Public comment? No? Okay. We'll move on. The next item on the agenda is manager's report. Mr. Brewer?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, to address some of the questions, there were issues that were brought up at the last council meeting regarding the castle. And following that discussion, I did have a conversation with Gary Hillen, who's involved with their operations, to discuss the concerns that were voiced. On the 27th, there was also a meeting where one of the inspectors from the health department went to conduct tests to see if there were noise violations at various points around the border with the castle's inside operations. There were no violations observed with the council's inside operations, but based upon the comments of the last council meeting, it appears that there's things happening outside that are very loud. My conversations follow-up with Gary Hillen included the fact that there were some components of different weddings that involved outdoor activities, sometimes as early as 8:15 in the morning, and we suspect that is what was heard and observed and even filmed, I think, by some people. So the next event that will have that activity, we've already scheduled the inspector to be on site to be able to test to see if there are violations. Mr. Hillen of the castle has been very responsive. His comments back to me were, if there's stuff that's happening outside that's not compliant, we will move it inside. The castle's leadership is not putting up resistance in terms of, demanding that things be allowed to happen. They're saying, look, if there's problems, we will address it and we'll bring the people inside. So the next time that there's an activity like that, which was previously observed scheduled, like I said, we will have an inspector on site to check it and give immediate feedback. That said, people in the community, obviously you're our eyes and our ears. I'm not here at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday or a Sunday, so if you see things, please let me know and continue to voice and be as specific as you can so I can address it with the leadership. There were also questions regarding the landscaping and berms and other items. So I requested the engineer pull the approvals and do a site inspection to confirm that the site plan that exists, that was approved and rectified against what exists there now. I know there were some specific questions about a berm. Because of the zero net fill issues associated with the wetlands and everything else, there was never a berm intended to be erected for the purposes of shutting down noise or keeping noise down. What was done was for screening for visual and trees. So the engineer's report came back and said that everything that was supposed to be there was in fact installed. As of the inspection, which was I think the 28th, there were a few trees that had died. We notified the castle. They said they would replace them as soon as they possibly could. So as far as what being there should be there, it is there, but we will continue to monitor it, and again, if there's any changes, please let us know.
I'm sorry, they told you when the next early morning event is going to be?
They told us when there's the next wedding that has that component to it, yes.
Okay.
So we'll have an inspector there with the meter, and in real time, if it comes to be a violation, he'll respond to the leadership. They need to move it inside.
Now, do we know when the next fireworks is going to be at the castle?
Tomorrow? The 11th.
Tomorrow. Alrighty then.
Yes. The fireworks will be attended by the fire department as well as the fire marshal.
Where are they situated? The last fireworks shot right over my head.
If you want to ask a question, can you come to the podium? And just give your name and address for the record.
Just so we can keep track.
Lisa McGrath, I'm at 124 Greenwood. I was just wondering where the fire department is going to be situated. The last fireworks, they shot off and it went right over my house. They exploded over my house, the first couple. I have my 87-year-old in-laws at the house and they were terrified. So my question is if something happens to my property or to my house, a firework explodes, catches on fire, how long is it going to take for the fire department to get there if they're at the castle?
They actually are sitting on Alexander.
On Alexander. But still, they have to go all the way around.
I think they were positioned last time, weren't they? Fire 1 and 2, they were positioned on 2 different...
I think they'd be shooting them over the lake.
They were on Alexander, as far as I know.
Where they're shooting it off from, I'm guessing, because like I said, I wasn't there that last time, and where they're shooting it from is from the lake or the peninsula, and that's not far from my house at all.
No, it's very close.
Very
Was
close.
it in the lake or was it on the...
I wasn't there. I'll tell you tomorrow night, unless you want to come to my house tomorrow.
I know I'm going to stop by, I want to see, yeah.
But, yeah, it was very close. It's just very close.
And exactly where they're going to stage, I don't know. They kind of make that decision based on what the field conditions are. I don't know how they make that call. I'm not a fireman.
Right.
But I can speak with them and I can get back to you with more specifics about it.
Okay.
But it's kind of annoying being a
What
resident.
time do they do that?
Yeah.
Is it like 8 o'clock? Or
I would think
very
about
dark?
9.
It's after dark.
Yeah.
Probably 9.
But it's before 10.
And it's a Wednesday night, too. All right, here's another question.
Probably 9 to 9:30.
Because we currently don't have any control over the fireworks component of it. That's something that's not regulated,
I
with
mean-
the exception of state fire code with the fire marshal.
Right. I don't know the state laws. I just know that you're not allowed to shoot them off as a resident,
Right, there needs to be
the same.
permits and organization in the fire department,
And
which is
they're
what's
all,
happening.
they have all permits.
That is all
and everything.
compliant with what they need to have,
That's
correct.
right. And they have,
We have to realign our pictures in the house.
I don't think it's fair to the residents, I really don't.
I don't mind the castle. I really don't. Right now, I don't see it at all.
Fireworks,
I don't see it at all. In the wintertime, I see everything.
But that's because of weeds.
Yeah,
Not their
they're like
bushes.
5-foot weeds right outside the fence that they don't take care of.
Right.
But I don't like the noise. Obviously, they're in my personal space. I have to yell in my backyard to talk to my husband. We're the one who shot the video and gave it to Channel 2 News.
And that was in the morning with the activity in the parking lot.
Yes.
Well, that we should be working on.
Well, that's what they're going to be
Yeah.
present for
Right.
the next time to see if...
And they can come to my house, and, they can shoot in, come to the front of my house, the back of my house, and just listen,
But we just have to go to the lot line, right? Because anything past the lot line, period.
Based upon the reports people provided, I suspect there are issues. So that's why we wanted to make sure someone will be there to address it immediately.
Okay.
And if it is an issue, then moving forward, it will be an activity they won't be allowed to have outside.
Okay, and should we continue to call the police if that, when the next time happens?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that way it's documented, because then we can take more action, because there's an incident report. Absent that, we have to have somebody physically present who can observe it for themselves.
Right, well, numerous times we called the police, they said that they couldn't do anything.
But they are documenting.
Ask for an incident report.
They are documenting it.
Just say, we
I'm sure
respect
they
you
are.
can't take action. If you could just make an incident report, use
Right.
that language, and they'll make sure it's in the system.
Okay, thank you.
What about the buffer? I heard you guys talk about the buffer. Whatever buffer they put there actually died 3 years.
I'm sorry.
Can we just name
Name
your
and
name and
address.
address for the record?
Jim McGrath, 124. Same house.
There are trees that are dead that are going to be replaced.
Okay, along the entire...
Whatever needs to be
Whatever's dead.
replaced will be replaced. And if you see something that isn't, please
Well,
call me and tell me.
the only other thing is barbed wire on top of the fence.
That wouldn't be something that we would do now.
No.
The challenge that we're faced with, and it's this council and myself, is the approvals that were done for the castle were some time ago.
Okay.
So we are limited in terms of what powers we have to change the game now. We have to keep them compliant with what rules and laws exist, and they have to remain within the approvals that they were granted by the planning board or the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
So far, they're being cooperative, so it's very good.
Correct. There's a
I
good
know, well,
relationship.
we had one phone call over to them, and they were quite rude. It was actually my neighbor, and didn't give him an inch. We just wanted him to turn it down.
Well, I don't know who you got on the phone, but we're working with, the people who own it.
Okay, yeah, next
Yeah.
time I can get you a name.
Yeah, and yet, any experience you have, if you want to call and share it with me, I'd be grateful to keep it for the file and make note of it.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, do we know when there's supposed to be a helicopter landing there?
As a further component of my report, the fireworks are currently scheduled, as was mentioned, for tomorrow, July 11th. I was informed by the fire marshal that there's a permit issued for July 14th.
For fireworks or
For fireworks, and that July 21st is the anticipated helicopter landing. I do not have an exact time, just that it's scheduled for July 21st.
21st. So here's a question about that. How do they get the permits? Is that all through FAA and it has nothing to do with us? And what about sound? And, I mean, landing a helicopter sounds complex.
Noisy.
To the best of my knowledge, and Bob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have any local
Yeah, I don't think
controls.
we permit that. I think that all gets done through the FAA.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we have any jurisdiction over that.
It would land?
Based upon what Mr. Hillen explained to me, they would have the opportunity to potentially land it in the parking lot, or they could even land it on the peninsula. And that was his representation. I haven't verified that with any outside authority.
So 11, 14, and 21st.
Correct.
Yep.
With the 21st being the helicopter.
But we don't know what time.
No.
Okay.
21st is a Saturday.
Flight plan.
Oh, true.
Yeah, so again, if people are seeing things, if anybody's watching this other than the audience that's present here, and you have additional information, please call and share it with me, and that way I can either address it, take action on it, or at least include it
And
for
have
the
the
benefit of the
complete
file.
story.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
As the castle evolves, so will we in working to deal with it to ensure that they're compliant with everything that we have jurisdiction to control.
Okay.
And there were questions also at the last meeting regarding the desnagging or tree removal of the Pompton River. Going to be reaching out to Kevin Boyle in Pompton Lakes. There is an existing permit. There is an existing grant. Pompton Lakes, it was a joint application between the Township of Pequannock and Pompton Lakes, and we are going to be seeking to take action once the river gets to the right level this year. So that's something that you will see action on this year up to Jacksonville Road. So we will be moving forward with that. With respect to other areas of the river, there are other permits that may be required, so we can't necessarily just, much as we would love sometimes run back there with a machine and grab things, we would get ourselves in a bunch of hot water. Those are the issues from last meeting. With respect to this meeting, a couple just quick things for items that are in the future on the agenda. There's an ordinance scheduled for the council's consideration to introduce appointing the qualified purchasing agent. I don't believe there's any other position in municipal government that requires an ordinance to appoint the person, and it's not a position that's required, so it's an interesting piece of legislation, but we have to do it, so it's scheduled for your consideration, ladies and gentlemen. There is an ordinance scheduled for introduction that pertains to sewers. As a continuation of the conversation at the last meeting, there was some clarification in one section of the ordinance. It said 2 years, and another section it said 3, so based upon the council's discussion, we're clarifying that to be 3 years. There's an interlocal agreement scheduled with the Board of Education. I apologize. I wrote the resolution and forgot to change the title. It currently reads as pertaining to vehicle maintenance. That was a haste error, so sorry about that.
It is tennis courts?
It is the tennis courts. It's for the use of the tennis courts through the Recreation Department. The Board of Education had significant concerns because of the money invested in the courts, so they've asked that we have an adult attendant to monitor it. So this is almost like a pilot to see how it works, and then we can potentially expand it from there. This evening, we also have for the consideration of the council the appointment of a chief financial officer based on a positive process with good response. I think we're privileged to have an opportunity with a very strong candidate. So that's for your consideration. Anyone living in the vicinity of Jacksonville and Sunset, on July 3rd, there was a significant water main break on Jacksonville Road. And it's an area where the soils are specifically acidic and more clay than the rest of the municipality, which is sandy. Because of the depth of the water main, it's more than 12 feet down. The Department of Public Works called in J. Fletcher Kramer, who are one of our emergency contractors. They worked in the field for approximately 20 hours before a determination was made that additional supplies and equipment would have to be brought in. So they worked for about 29 hours, but were unable to complete the repair. So we're going to have to go back out. In the interim, there's been a 6-inch water main bypass in the drainage ditch to the north of Jacksonville Road to keep water supplied. Unfortunately, as a result of everything involved, water systems, for anyone who doesn't know, they're a lot like circulatory systems in the body. If you mess with this side, it's going to have an impact on that side. We then had a water main break on Sunset. So that was addressed, but it's been a heck of a week for the water department. So we do have an emergency appropriation scheduled because we do not have funds budgeted to deal with the repairs. The resolution as written is for $200,000 based upon my communication with the company today. I respectfully request the council's consideration in upping that to $225,000. In addition, there's a resolution scheduled to cover the emergency contract with J. Fletcher Kramer because of public procurement laws and the local public contracts law. That resolution is required to authorize them to proceed. Hopefully, they'll be able to proceed this week if it's acted upon favorably this evening. Also there, for discussion, based upon comments at the last couple of meetings we had about nonprofits and event fees and do we charge, do we not charge, that schedules a discussion item. I don't want to get too far ahead of the evening. And then itinerant vendors, there had been previous conversation about a do not solicit list, so that is scheduled for discussion later tonight.
So Adam, where does the $225,000 emergency appropriation come out of?
The emergency appropriation will be funded through the sale of a bond.
Under the water utility.
We do not have that kind of cash floating around the water utility. Water utility rates have been steady for about 7 years. As the council and the public know, we've just engaged in the water tank project and the water main transmission line. Those are about $5.5 million roughly, so there's debt service to be paid on those, and unfortunately now we have this emergency to fund. So anticipate a future discussion about water rates to ensure that we can continue to pay for what we need to do. Unfortunately, water is water. We have to correct the water system.
I was just curious on where the money was.
We don't have the cash.
In the water utility.
Right.
And is the permit and grant something that's yearly for desnagging? And will we be doing that if it is?
The permit that was obtained a couple of years ago. I believe, I don't recall exactly I don't want to speculate. I don't recall exactly how long it's good for. We're going to make sure we get the work that's allowable done within that. And then I think the goal through my conversation with Mr. Golden, the township engineer, was to continue down the pumps.
That is.
Great, thank you.
The only other question I have is not in your report. We're talking about the West
and I
Parkway.
apologize. Yeah, the couple additional items. The water main Transmission line is at a substantial completion. Almost everyone, if not everyone, are now getting their water through the new water main. The bypass that we've seen on the street there, that lovely green pipe, will be removed soon. The plan to pave, given my druthers, I've always paved water main trenches a year after, but some consideration has to be made for the fact that we have the winter and the road being in the condition that it's in, with plows freezing, thawing. If it needs to be paved in the fall, we may have to take action to do that. There's no current contract for that. That's outside of the current project as an additional thing, but my druthers would be a year. So there's nothing definitive yet, but I'll keep the council and the public informed as we move forward.
So do we have money put aside to pave? No.
I have to review what's available.
Okay,
I don't know that because it wasn't part of the original project. We may have money, I can't.
Well, we have money for paving in the budget, and we have so many miles of paving.
Correct.
So, yeah.
But I thought we already allocated where we were paving.
Well, they haven't put anything out to bid.
And we may, so don't,
Yeah.
anybody that hasn't seen her, I'm relatively new to Township of Pequannock. There may have been when the project was planned, I just don't have that
We
answer.
did a bunch of paving already of local streets.
And although there's foliage on 287, as you drive north and south, you will see the water tank with the beautiful crest of the Township of Pequannock.
Oh, I have pictures of it. Somebody
Yes.
was up there.
Yeah, there are pictures of it.
Very nice water tower.
Unfortunately, with the foliage, we can't see it now, but as fall comes, we can all feel a sense of civic pride every time we drive past our water tower. No one will drive down 287 or up 287 and
Without
not
seeing it.
know they're going through the Township of Pequannock.
And I must say, it's really well done, like really well. So
It looks sharp, just as sharp as you see it on the logos.
they did a good job.
That's great.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, anything else? That's it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Next on the agenda, public hearing on ordinance number 2018-13. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2018-13 is an ordinance amending Chapter 185 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock. This is regarding records and service rates.
Okay, are there any comments from council?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to open public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If anyone in the audience has questions or comments on the ordinance, please come to the microphone, identify yourself for the record. No? Is there a motion to close public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance number 2018-13.
I'll second. Sorry.
You got that, Carol?
Yep. I gave it to you.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda is public hearing ordinance 2018-14. Ms. Marsh?
Ordinance number 2018-14 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 129 entitled Parks and Recreation of the Code of the Township of Pequannock regarding pavilion fees.
Are there any comments from council?
No, we talked about it last time.
Okay.
So we were good.
Is there a motion to open public hearing?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone in the audience have questions or comments on the ordinance? Please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Go ahead, the other one is second.
Second? You
I'll
got it?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2018-14.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the introduction of ordinances. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2018-15 is an ordinance designating a qualified purchasing agent for the Township of Pequannock.
Mr. Brewer, any comments? You already-
As noted, it's a
Yeah.
requirement that seems a little odd, but it's a requirement so the council and the public know I will be designated as the purchasing agent once this goes into effect.
Okay. Are there any comments from council?
Nope.
Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce 2018-15.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda for introduction is ordinance 2018-16. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance 2018-16 is an ordinance amending minimum and maximum salaries and pay rates for designated officials and employees of the Township of Pequannock. And in this particular case, we're amending it for one, and that should say Chief Financial Officer.
Okay. Mr. Brewer, any additional comments?
We were in the process of hiring a chief financial officer. As the council is aware and the public may know, Mr. Holberg occupied both titles. I take responsibility in not catching it as we were moving through the process, but when we last adopted the salary ordinance, we didn't have a dedicated salary ordinance for the single position, so or one of a normal amount. So that's why we're making that correction tonight.
Okay. Are there any comments from council?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first? Do you have a question?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
First.
Wait, second.
Who wants to be first?
He's first. Second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda for introduction is ordinance 2018-17.
Ordinance 2018-17 is an ordinance amending Chapter 152 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock and clarifying sewer connection requirements.
Okay, Mr. Brewer.
As noted earlier, continuation of the prior discussion on the timeframes for connections allow for clarification to make sure all parts say 3 years.
Okay.
So with that said, where are we at in certain areas of the village? Are we at 2 years or 3 years?
They are all 3 years.
They're all 3 years now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the 3-year countdown, they're beyond the 3-year countdown?
One section is beyond the 3-year countdown. The second section, if my recollection of the dates, is coming up this fall, and the third section will be March or April of 19, but I would have to confirm that.
Okay, because somebody that works for me said he got a notice from the town. I don't think it's been 3 years, but okay.
He may have gotten the notice that it's upcoming this fall. He may be in the next round.
I
Have him
believe
reach
the
out to me.
last
I can
one
talk.
is April
Yeah, do you know what
of
stage he was in?
2019.
No, I'm going to find out.
Sometime in that.
Yeah.
Winding Way, if anybody knows where it is.
Yeah, I know where that is, yeah. Okay, all right, you're done with that. Is there any motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce 2018-17.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. The next agenda item in resolutions, Ms. Marsh?
Beginning with Resolution R 2018-124, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. 2018-125, authorizing release of deposits for construction in a township right-of-way. 2018-126, authorizing participation in an electronic sale program in 2018. 2018-127, appointing the chief financial officer. 2018-128, authorizing an agreement with the Board of Education for the use of tennis courts. 2018-129, approving change order number 1 for the reconstruction of Mountain Avenue project, and increasing the contract with Vector Corporation of Monroe Township, New Jersey by $17,900 to a revised contract price of $562,611. 2018-130, accepting a deed of dedication over a portion of properties bordering on Mountain Avenue. That's to PK Properties, 628 LLC. 2018-131, authorizing an emergency appropriation necessitated by water main break on Jacksonville Road. 2018-132, authorizing the award of an emergency contract to J. Fletcher Kramer and Son for the repair and improvements to the Jacksonville Road water main. 2018-133, approving payment of the itemized claim as set forth on the July 6, 2018 bill list.
Okay, are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
The tax sale is something that Dave was in charge of, or he had the authorization, so we're just appointing the tax collector now to do that?
The tax sale, the state implemented what was a pilot program for the electronic version of the tax sale, so it needs to be ratified annually. So this is just to allow the tax collector...
the electronic.
Correct. This is regarding the electric. Much like
auction, right?
Much like e-deals and the electronic government stuff, the tax sales are now allowed to be done electronically as well, but it requires the council's authorization.
So it was really always the tax collector
Correct.
that
Yes.
did
Correct.
that role? Okay.
Correct.
Anyone else?
I have a question on
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay.
I'll go after you.
Resolution R 2018-129, the $17,900. What is that for?
During construction, they went to replace one of the catch basins and determined that there was drainage to nowhere.
That's the one probably on the left-hand side that they cut through.
I'd have to look at a map to know exactly which one it is. But as a result of the sandy soil, the drainage to nowhere functioned because it dispersed the water underground and it diluted. So instead of having the drainage to nowhere, the engineer came up with a plan to almost make like a French drain to extend it down a corrugated pipe so that it allows the water to dissipate and go into the ground as opposed to being drained.
More even.
Correct. So that resulted unfortunately in an unforeseen condition in the field which needed to be changed.
And when is that going to be paved?
I have a status meeting tomorrow, so I'll...
That's what he was talking about before.
No, this is
Mountain Avenue.
Oh,
Mountain Avenue, yeah.
I don't know the exact, I'd have to
It's
get
like
back to
3
you on
weeks
the
or
exact.
something.
But that's not going to be, we don't have to wait a year for that one.
No,
Correct.
no.
No,
No, that's different.
No, that's, the goal of this is to repave that.
Telephone poles may hold us up, but
No, we're not moving any poles, Mr. Cole.
well, there's one telephone pole that's in front of the curb, so that one better be moved before we pave.
Okay. So I spoke in an unformed manner, sorry.
Okay.
The only other question I had, but I think I know the answer, it's because of the attendant that we need, is the Resolution 2018-128. We were looking at the hours. They're only allowed on those courts 9 to 4, but that's because, so in other words, if somebody wants to go 7:30 on a Sunday morning, or they want to go 6 o'clock on a weeknight, they can't because we need an attendant there. and
Correct.
That's what was agreed.
It's going to be locked.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure for clarification.
I did make the recommendation, I think instead of, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, I think we should maybe do Wednesday through Sunday, because I think the weekend mornings and early afternoon may be
Used more?
used more than Monday through
Or it
Friday.
might be nice if you did one evening.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, is you would think people would rather have it on the weekends or at nights.
I'm not taking off work to go play tennis.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, so that, is that,
It's a
that was
trial.
already worked out with the...
The Board of Ed.
There were significant discussions among staff, and I know there were some concerns about, again, what could potentially happen to the tennis courts. So I envision this almost as
A trial.
a trial and a pilot.
So if this
And we can,
goes well.
if this goes well, we can expand it and establish the level of comfort needed to
We're on trial.
meet the.
On trial. So in
We're
other
on
words,
trial.
you
Meet
get
the
a
needs of
lot
the community.
You get a lot of requests for, hey, what about the weekends? And, you can
Correct.
see that nobody's using it during the
Right.
week.
I don't know. I just think we're going to be paying somebody to sit
Yeah.
there doing nothing, but
They're not going to be there, right? And everybody's going to say nobody uses courts, but that's because of when we're making them available.
We'll adjust as we go. All right. Rich, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I just want to clarify on 131, that's the one that's being increased to 225, right?
Yes, ma'am.
25,000. And then on 132, that repair, when do we estimate we're going to redo, start on the connection on Jacksonville?
I would call J. Fletcher Kramer tomorrow morning, if not tonight, and they may be able to get going by the end of this week.
Okay.
We don't anticipate a significant amount of time to ultimately make the repair now that we know what's down there and what's required.
How long do we think it'll be closed to the road? A day?
Yeah, a day.
A day.
We'd all get it done within a day.
Okay.
When is the...
And also, I'm sorry, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and also, anyone that remembers the area, there was an issue there about 7 or 8 years ago, and because of the high acidity, again, in the water and the soil, we're making a philosophical change away from the ductile iron pipe to a high-density polyethylene pipe to avoid this happening again.
Well, we have the restaurant there, we have the airport there. Is there any notification that has to happen with them ahead of time so that they can make any kind of arrangements, or no?
The restaurant's not affected. We have a back way of getting water up to Sunset.
I know, but we're still going to affect our neighbors.
believe it or
We're
not,
not affected with water supply.
that new street
but I'm
in
talking
Lincoln
about
Park,
traffic.
as you're going up the hill, we supply water to that whole neighborhood.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
When is the stuff going to be done to Jacksonville as far as the walkways and repaving
Oh,
and
that's
all that?
That's currently at the bid.
Yeah. Thank God this is all happening before.
Right, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of lucky, but not. Yeah. All right. Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2018-124 through 133.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan? Yes. Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is items for discussion. The first one is Chapter 75, Festivals, Carnivals, Exhibitions, and Shows.
As previously discussed within my report, there was a conversation at a prior council meeting. The way the ordinance is currently worded, there's a $100 fee, but some people can make a request to have that waived, and some people have made requests to have that waived, other people have paid it. So in conversations with Ms. March as well as Mr. Brewstike, the reason we scheduled for discussion this evening was really to take the council's pulse on whether or not we want to charge the fee or we don't want to charge the fee to nonprofits. Because with a respectful recommendation, I think it should just be a decision made and followed as opposed to something that has some people getting it waived and other people not getting it.
I agree.
We're going to do nonprofits, we'll just say it. The other thought was, maybe instead of a fee, what we say is, part of the getting the approval is an analysis from the departments if it's going to cost us money. So if we're going to have police service and this to provide that service, it's going to cost us $2,000, then maybe there should be something in here that passes along that cost, or at least gives us the ability to pass along that cost as part of the approval process, rather than just a flat fee. Because when thinking about what it costs us to process it, it may cost us nothing, or it may cost us a considerable amount, depending on the event. And we have some events which are largely, I'll give the street fair as an example, largely community events, almost a township-sponsored event. It isn't, but it has the same component to it. So for those kind of events, you may not want to impose charges of any kind. But there are others that it may feel like there may be others that it feels like there's a high cost to the town to provide the services needed to have the affair, and we want to pass it on. So I think the recommendation would be that the fee be just waived for nonprofits, but that we put a provision in there that allows the council, gives the council the option when they get an application and they're told about cost, to pass on the cost, not a fee, but to just directly pass on whatever costs we may have.
So for example, just so I understand, let's say a carnival, which we need police and health and whatever on it, relative to maybe a car show where we really don't need anything.
Well, Brian has a certain events already built into his budget for overtime, so I would think that, as long as the police department says that it's covered in their budget, their normal budget overtime, I think that we
don't need to worry about it.
No, we don't need to worry about it. But if it's something new that pops up that wasn't in, his budget or in his planning, then maybe there's a possibility that we need to do that. But I like Bob's idea of nonprofits waived, with the exception of
if it's going to cost us.
Well, is it going to be nonprofits from within town? Or just all nonprofits, period?
Right.
I think it's nonprofits from within town.
Okay,
Yes.
I too. That's what I was going to say. We should be clear. Yeah, nonprofits within town.
Okay.
So you guys are going to write up a new ordinance or change the ordinance?
Just for the benefit, I know everybody's on the same page on that. There's general consensus.
Yes, nonprofits in town, we have the ability to pass on.
So Ryan, just so you know, that the carnival, the Holy Spirit Carnival, there is no fee for the police officers.
Right.
Okay.
Right, traditionally that's
built into Brian's budget for overtime. Same way with the high school football games.
They're town events.
Rotary K, 5K run, all of that is all in his budget.
Now, what doesn't go into here with the police and all that are the marches, right?
Correct.
Right.
What marches?
The one we were at.
Right, exactly. They cost us money.
Yeah.
They do, that's a different...
That's not an exhibition.
That's not a festival.
It's not an exhibition. It's something different.
That's right.
Now, just to clarify, use of live animals, so like no chickens and goats? But does that include the fish too? Like those little
that's why it was put in there.
That's why it was put in there.
Oh, we had a lot of discussion about fish. Yeah.
Really? So I missed the fish discussion. Was it lively?
It was fishy.
It was fishy.
All right, kids, you used to be able to throw the ball into the little glass jar.
Who enforces that?
Yeah, but then the kids ate the fish.
I just want to make sure that if I get an application in the next couple of weeks before this ordinance actually takes effect, you would like to waive the fee
For a nonprofit.
that's based in town. Okay. Right.
As long
And
as it's legitimate 501c3.
Yeah, they could have 501c3.
We'll say. All right, well,
They
Carol,
can't just say, oh,
we're also going to back up on the one that brought up this discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
If I could just respectfully say, because that was the subject of a prior resolution, if you wouldn't mind memorializing that via resolution for the benefit of the minutes, I think would help.
You mean do another resolution, or just?
To waive previously we collected the fee, and that was
Right.
done via resolution, so I would just respectfully recommend that.
We revise the
You do that by a
resolution.
resolution.
Okay, we'll do that on the next agenda then.
Next agenda to waive the fee?
Right. Okay.
So they've already paid the fee for the...
I think they have. I believe there was,
Yeah.
it said check on there.
Yes.
So we'll reimburse it.
Yeah,
for
reimburse it.
resolution.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Next one's a
Next one. Next one's a good one. I like this one. Go ahead, Adam.
My understanding, and I wasn't privy to it because I wasn't here, but there had been prior discussion regarding solicitors, so I'm going to defer to Mr. Oostdike to run with this.
Well, so, like most towns, we have an ordinance which requires people who want to solicit by going door to door to obtain a permit from the town, pay a fee, to solicit only during certain hours, and to subject themselves to an investigation before obtaining the permit from us. Those ordinances are pretty commonplace in many towns. They've been challenged recently. I know. And we have gotten a number of cases now where the municipalities are losing those cases. And essentially what the courts have said is solicitation, even if the solicitation is the sale of goods, going door to door to sell a product or a trade, that does involve some communication and speech. And if we're going to allow some people to do it, we have to allow all people to do it. And the courts have already told us we have to let the Jehovah's Witnesses do it. So there really is not much choice but to relook at our ordinance and try to figure out how we can, what we can do and how we can solve it. Having the investigation, which we currently did, became an issue when we had a number of people come seeking a permit to, I guess it was for pest control, Carol, is that right?
Yeah.
Extermination services. There were a number of them that this group brought forward. They were forwarded to the police for investigation, and this group had sued other towns when delayed over investigations because of fingerprints and other things. So we worked it out, and we did not, worked out with them, our police department was great. They pushed it forward, and we got past that particular application. But it's going to happen again, and among the things we really learned about it is the investigation process gave us a little bit of a false sense of security in the first place, because really all they were able to do is see if these people had local criminal records. It wasn't really a thorough vetting of people. It was a cursory investigation on their part anyway. And I don't know that it really achieved a whole lot more than could have been achieved without it. So that piece didn't seem that, that we were really gaining that much from it. We had hours in place. Ours really weren't, some towns had very restrictive hours. They said you can't do this after 5 o'clock in the evening.
Ours was sundown.
Ours was sundown. So ours, I felt like we could justify, at least during the summertime. Sundown seems like a reasonable time to do it. So in trying to look at alternatives that would not get us sued, and one of the problems with when you get a claim for these, I'm anticipating there are going to be groups coming, seeking permits, getting denied just so they can sue the municipalities over it, because they collect all their fees when they do that under the current status of the law. One of the ideas that has been going around in other towns and has been supported by the courts is this idea of a do not solicit list. Very similar to the do not call list that we're all somewhat familiar with. While the municipality does not have the constitutional right to limit people's speech on other people's properties, as homeowners or home renters, we have the ability to tell people we don't want them to come on our property. We could put up signs as individuals that say no trespassing, but then we'd have a town full of signs that would kind of look kind of ugly, right? Everybody has a no trespassing sign in front of their house. So what the courts have allowed municipalities to do with no sign, they're not breaking any violation when there's no sign. So one of the things that other municipalities have done and the courts have supported is this idea of a municipality keeping a list, allowing people to put their name and address on a list and say, we do not want people coming upon our property, selling merchandise or trying to collect donations. The clerk's office keeps the list. With the advent of technology and some of the abilities to keep lists, it's really not as burdensome as it might have been in some time ago. It's just maintaining a list. Similarly, people putting their name on it really isn't particularly burdensome. You can, online, you can register, we can put information out there about how to do it, and it would be relatively easy for those who don't want it. And some people may welcome people coming to the door. I think most people probably don't, but if that's something you want, you can certainly not register for that, and then people will be allowed to come to your door.
So if you register and someone comes into town and goes to town hall, say, listen, we're going out door to door, the clerk will give.
We're going to do nothing more than say, you got to tell us who you are so we have a record of it. You got to tell us when you're going to do it so we know when to expect you.
Here's the list.
Here's the people that do not want you. You may not go to these houses, and if you do, we will not let you solicit at all in our town. And that's how it's enforced.
So the Girl Scout that knocks on my door selling me cookies has to have a do not call list in her hand?
Now here's the issue though, Rick. The Girl Scouts aren't doing that now, really. They're really not.
They're not coming to town and telling.
They're really not. That's not a safe way to sell cookies today.
Yeah, but
really
Boy Scouts, we're going around with like stone shop, cans,
you're not,
stuff like
yeah, I know. But isn't that done by leaving something and then it being left?
So we leave something, asking for it, and then we go back a couple days later.
I think we not worry about that. That's not knocking at people's doors.
Just don't knock.
We're not knocking at people's doors. We're leaving it and people are responding.
So alarm companies, Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness and let's say people running for office are not covered by it because they're not asking for money. As long as you don't ask for money, you can do it. But as soon as you ask for money, that's the dividing line.
But if they have a no trespassing fine, they can't come.
No, they can't.
So here's
this list. They can't. But this list covers anyone because you could make it even more broad than that. But is that really such a good idea?
No, let's just do.
I don't think we want to do it. I think we want to just do.
Right.
If you're asking people for money, you're trying to sell them something.
Right.
Then you need to register, and you can't go when people don't want you.
I think it's a good
But we
idea.
will probably try to do this electronically, like you said.
it has to be
make it
electronic.
easy.
Carol had some thoughts about how to
Because
do it.
you may have hundreds of people sign up for that.
Very preliminary thoughts about what to do about it. But it doesn't seem that onerous, even if you use an Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah,
honestly.
use an Excel spreadsheet. Somebody calls up and says, look, I live at 29 Rockledge. I don't want any people knocking on my door. You put 29 Rockledge in a spreadsheet. When somebody comes to
They give them the
register, you give them the Excel sheet and say, these are the people you don't go to.
It'll be hectic. We do have a lot of houses. There could be 5,000.
It will take time for
But I also think there's some things on the website that we have that might actually automate it. They could just submit their address and it's possible. I can check it out.
So here's a question though, two problems. On the vetting side, somebody comes in and gets vetted. We still don't know if that person's the actual person that's going out. So let's say it's an alarm company, a pest control company.
Well, they have to prove their identity to the township.
To us.
Yes.
But then who is following up and following them to make sure that person actually went out?
No one.
So it's the process.
This won't change any of that. The same thing could happen today.
Right.
But in
They
theory,
knock on my door.
And the second part is enforcement. So it's great to have ordinances, but who enforces it?
Okay, so this gets
Call the
enforced.
police.
Well, this actually gets enforced through the clerk's office. Somebody complains to the clerk, I'm on the do not call list, and so came to my house yesterday. Clerk's office is given the right, an initial right, to say to that person, you are now suspended and can no longer solicit in town. Then the police can write them a summons if they do solicit.
Okay, so the process is the person or company comes to the clerk's office, fills out the information, gets vetted. Now we know that they're soliciting in town.
Yes.
If they go to some place and a property owner calls up, they're there to call the clerk, file, and then that's how we can go back to that person and say, you're not supposed to be.
And they're doing it in other towns. There's a right to appeal to the council, and if there's multiple offenses, they can't solicit. There's provisions in there for how long.
I just want to make sure that everybody in town understands what the process is, so at least we know.
Yeah, it would need to be complaint-driven. I mean, the only way we can enforce it is if people call and complain.
Right, now they call the police.
But we would have to communicate with the police.
And one of the reasons the police
let them know where to
department...
refer the call.
Yeah, one of the reasons the police department supports this way and this idea of doing it is when somebody calls, and they do get a lot of calls, when somebody calls, they can say, look, if you don't like it, this is what you can do so it doesn't happen again.
Right.
And you can give people a solution rather than just say, sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. They're registered.
And when this process still first starts, there will be somebody that accidentally goes to the wrong house just because they
And I think
find the house
I think
number.
they're given a warning
So that it'll be a warning first.
Make sure you order yourself a badge, Carol.
And they should all have, and they should always have an ID.
Clothing bins and itinerant.
Town clerk.
When
Violation.
But
Get her a
it is-
smart.
Vehicle and lights.
But it is required that they have an ID.
Yes, it is. It will still be required, yes.
if someone knocks on the door of someone that's on the do not solicit list, it's the company that gets suspended, right? Yes, okay.
Yeah.
No, I
like that
think you would
idea.
have a list of these companies that are approved as they come through. It would be nice to have them, just like you have garage
Like a rolling
sales.
list.
You know which garage sales are this week, you know who's coming through this week where they don't have to call. If they know, you could look
Well,
somewhere on the
here's a good
website.
question. Are we going to restrict? So let's say it's an alarm company and they're doing their canvassing program. Can they come every month, every week, every year?
I don't think we can say that.
Yeah, I don't think we can restrict how often.
So as
Because
long
renewal
as
by
they
Anderson
follow the
comes all the time.
process, they could come every day.
As long as they follow the
Smart thing
process.
for
And
you
you
to
always get
do.
the clean water.
Sign up.
On the do not knock list, I call it.
Right.
I've been very hesitant to put information out that implies that we approve this in some way. Because we don't have the ability to, the vetting process is relatively minor. So I don't,
Wouldn't it be easier to put everybody on there and you just put on there if you want to be solicited? Because she's going to have a big
Right,
list.
do the reverse.
Yeah,
You're
unfortunately, I don't think the
automatically
courts are going to go for
supporting
that. They insist
Oh,
that
boy.
the people take an affirmative step to protect themselves, to themselves to declare that they don't want it.
So.
Well, we're going
we
to
need
crash the website when we introduce
Right, we
this.
need to, yes, you're right, we need to rewrite the ordinance.
Yes.
But with that ordinance, there's got to be a mechanism for, right, to be able to contact the clerk's office and say, I do not want to be,
It has to be electronic.
We will, yep, we'll have the ordinance and it'll
on the
be,
not knock list or whatever. you
Not locked?
the timing will be such that it will not be adopted until the clerk's office is ready to roll it out, right,
That's
Carol?
my point.
right, doesn't like a little pressure.
Well, we'll have control over the timing of the adoption of it. We just won't put it on for adoption until the clerk's office is ready.
I'm all in favor of this.
Yeah.
You're in favor?
Yeah. Because people call up and they're frustrated, and there's nothing we can tell them to do. Now we can tell them to do
You
something.
can tell them, put
So
a
this is a
4x6
draft here?
sign on their property.
Yeah, it's not for introduction tonight, it's a
No,
draft, but
but
we'll
we'll
work
move it
through
forward.
it, and
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
we'll move it forward.
All right.
Everybody's on board with it.
So I guess everybody's on board, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. All right, that wasn't too painful. Next on the agenda is reports and notices. Are there any comments or questions from council? What's in your packet? No? Okay. Next on the agenda is council reports and announcements. We'll start with Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
All right, the only things I have is there is a special event at the senior house for the Pequannock Senior Group. They're holding on Tuesday, July 17th. They're going to have a guest speaker. All are welcome. It's Dr. Monk, a neurologist, who will be discussing Alzheimer and dementia care for seniors. So anyone can go to that. Also, I have, let me see, I don't know how many of you know Dr. Jillian Hettinger, but she has served on the Library Board of Trustees here in Pequannock for 14 years, and she's going to be retiring and moving and resigning from the Library Board. She is holding a program at the library on July 12th at 7 p.m. And after that, we're going to have a presentation for her there.
Oh, that's nice.
I also thought that we might want to do something here at council too. I think I had forwarded you something, but if any of you can make that, let me know.
When is that?
July 12th at 7 p.m. at the library, if you can make that. So we're going to do something over there.
Oh, that's
Thursday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's this week.
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
It's Thursday.
And then we can talk about possibly, I don't know if we can do something in the future. I had sent an email around. We can discuss that. Is that
Well, maybe we
appropriate?
can do something right there. I don't know if we can, I don't know how fast.
All right, we can
do
talk about
something.
that.
It's weird.
And also on, what else do I have? Wednesday, July 25th is the Economic Development Committee, And other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay. Councilman Hurd?
All right. Teen Advisory Committee. Our wonderful friend already spoke. I do have a couple of questions. And I know senior house is really well used. Is there any one Friday a month or something that we could designate, possibly get in there? I don't know. Maybe we have to talk to Parks and Rec. I know it's really
I can circle back to
used.
staff
Yeah.
and see whether that or any other facility, if there could be some appropriate place.
Another question.
What is that for, Ryan?
Teen Advisory Committee. I'm trying to think of some space that they can use in town that we already have.
All right.
Henning's house, we do have that back area and the kitchen. I don't know if that's realistic, though.
So what are we looking to do?
A place to hang out, some kind of beta test.
So it's more than teen advisory.
It's a
Yes.
teen place.
It's a teen place, right, but led by Teen Advisory. In other words,
Right.
and again, this is going to go into something else I'm going to talk about. Kids need some place to do stuff. I was on a hike. You might have seen it on Facebook. Adam, you got the call and the pictures, and Mayor, so did you. So I hiked up to Mountainside Park. I took my 3 boys, and we just went up there to break in our new hiking gear. And we stopped by the wonderful big water tower, and it's a beautiful, you really got to go out and take a look at this painting, because I am amazed on how well this thing is. Very good. So we went from there, we walked in Mountainside Park, and we got to the area where the Boy Scouts, where we've built a couple of areas. And the first area was nice and clean, as it always is, but the older area right in the middle was a mess. And I mean, not just a party mess, I mean, it was a disgusting mess. Things were left there. There was still a smoldering fire that we put out. Whoever was there cut down live trees, and unfortunately there's plenty of down trees that you can cut up and use for a fire that are laying all over the place, but they cut down real live trees. So that's a big no-no. Other odd things was on the Blue Trail when we were coming out, somebody had dug a hole, a very large hole, in the middle of the trail. Not to the side, not over to the corner where they might be burying all these cups and stuff, but right in the middle of the trail. So it's a huge, huge hazard. And it was freshly dug, and the shovel was still there.
Did you hear the comments about why that's there? It makes a lot of sense. Because the ATVs are riding all around there. They're trying to stop the ATVs.
That's not a trail that the ATVs would be on. It's too small of a trail, and it hugs the side of the mountain as it parallels 287, so ATV can't be on that side.
Oh, okay.
ATV will be on the orange trail.
Okay.
But still in the middle of the trail, it's very odd. So it brings up this where, I don't know if that's kids or more of an older generation, quite frankly, but either way, we need more places where kids can hang out. And we also have to understand that, carry in, carry out, for the ball games and whatnot, listen, I think we need to have stuff out there. But when you're hiking in Mountainside Park, that is a classic carry in, carry out. If you're going in with your stuff, we went in with our stuff. We were going to have lunch up there, and we carried all of our excess stuff out. That's what you do. We need to do something about people that are going to be disrespecting our parks that are in our town, and whether that's putting up some of the cameras, like some people said on Facebook, or if we have to rent some cameras, whatever that is, we have to do something about curbing this, because the Boy Scouts put a lot of effort, and it's beautiful up there. I really encourage everybody to go for a hike up there. It's beautiful, and we want to keep it that way.
And this isn't the first incident. I've heard this complaint from many people.
This isn't the first, but this is the worst I've ever seen.
And we don't even know if it's town residents or town kids.
No idea.
No, you don't know if it's
No
kids,
idea.
you don't know if it's...
And there was a backpack left, there was stuff
20-year-old.
left. I did look at it. I did look through it. There was no incriminating evidence, unfortunately. But Adam, can you give us an update on that?
Did the Rangers go clean it up?
Yeah, the DPW did go up and clean it up after it was reported. I think the security of remote locations is nothing new to Pequannock Township or somebody else. Councilman Hurd, you also made a report to the police department of what you saw, just for the benefit of the record, so it didn't go undone there. I think I need to circle back with the police chief, as well as acting police chief, as well as DPW, to talk about the best ways that we can work to secure the location. Because unfortunately, I think the way we approach things, there's an expectation that people are going to do what we expect them to do and be responsible.
Unfortunately.
So if people are acting in an irresponsible way, there was alcohol containers there based upon the report you provided, you're dealing with a different dynamic. So I think we need to figure out with PD and DPW the best way to move forward with it. So I'll work on that.
Whose responsibility is that park? Is that park ranger? Whose district does that go in?
I think the park ranger is responsible for patrolling on behalf of reporting things, but he's not going to go in, or she's not going to go in with enforcement power. Ultimately, everything's the jurisdiction of the police department.
So they're not just going to walk up there every Saturday or something like that?
I don't know what their patrol procedures are, candidly, but that's a tool that we can use. But in my experience with other municipalities with park rangers, they're going to identify and they can deal with minor incidents. But again, if you have people cutting down trees, lighting fires, and consuming alcohol, that might be something that's more of a police department activity to confront than an unarmed.
How long of a hike is that, Ryan?
It's just about 2 miles, well, 1.2 miles in from the Blue Trail, 2 miles in from the Orange Trail if you're going up the pipeline.
So how many miles from the parking lot of Top of Mountain Ave?
Mile 2, give or take.
I don't know if you're going to get the park ranger to hike up 2 miles and then 2 miles back.
If there's a way to use some sort of secure communications that can be monitored
I think there should
remotely,
be some cameras up there.
that may be the easiest way to do it. Yeah.
Drone, there you go.
Now, just to clarify, in our parks in Pequannock, there is no alcohol permitted.
Correct.
Correct? Regardless, whether it's tennis courts or Mountainside Ave or the ball game, right? Okay.
That's correct.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Did you get a permit from the council?
Councilman Cole?
First aid squad meeting was last night, and I don't have it with me, but I remember, I think it was 81 calls. It was rather a busy month during June for the first aid squad, and I also attended the food truck festival on Saturday, and I thought that was a huge success, and there was quite a number of people on the beach, which I was very happy to see. So hopefully, if there was 30 new families there, hopefully, 10 or 15 will say, hey, you know what? This is a beautiful place, and we need to sign up. So.
Well, I don't know what the count was. I don't know if you knew it, but when we talked to Barbara Malloy, what was it, 975?
She said it was over, it was almost at 1,000 when we got there.
Yeah, so that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
So there must have been well over 1,000.
Which then is interesting, because I wonder what's the daily, like on a typical Saturday, how many people would actually go through the doors?
She said maybe a couple hundred.
Really? So
I asked
would
the
say
same
we
question.
easily.
I said, is this half of what you would normally see? She said, no.
Well, maybe that'll spark some interest, because it was a really nice day.
It was a beautiful day. The beach was packed, and it looked like everybody was having a great time.
Yeah, we were.
So that's all I have.
Okay. Councilman Phelan?
Just that the company number 2 is going to meet on Thursday, and company 1 moved their meeting to this Friday. So that's it.
Okay. The only thing I have is the Historic Commission at the train station there. There's an Eagle Scout project going on with Dave Wisniewski's son. He's restoring the flower bed the way it was originally. So he actually has a Facebook page that shows like a before, how it was back in the day and how they're doing it. I think Ed Engelbar, our historian, had went with him to the gravel pit over in Riverdale and got some pink quarry stones too that they're using for there. So it looks really nice. So if you want to stop by and see it at the train station, it's very interesting and very nice and very much a replica of what was there. And they're going to put in ballards too, so it's going to be really nice. Tomorrow's my environmental commission meeting, and that's all I have.
There was one more thing that I could add.
Yeah, go ahead.
It seemed like everybody loved the fireworks this year, so.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It was a new vendor, from what I was told, and sign them up already for next year.
There was nothing but compliments.
We are already in progress to work on that, yes. A lot of positive feedback. It's not often you get a lot of people writing in to say thank you or great work on something, and that did get a great...
I think last year was such a disappointment. So many people were disappointed last year.
Polar opposites, right? Yeah.
Set expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you
Very,
remembered to
very
bring that up.
nice.
Yeah. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized to come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record.
There's a guy
Frank?
back there.
Oh, yeah, come on. Frank, give me a second. Go ahead. Thank you.
My name's Victor Carpio, 19 Pequannock Ave.
I'm sorry, could you
Could you
spell
just
that?
repeat that for the microphone?
Yeah, could you spell that? Repeat your name and spell. I don't...
Victor Carpio, C-A-R-P-I-O.
C-A-R.
I'm here tonight to to see if we could get a stop sign put on Fairview and Pequannock Ave. Now, you have one on Fairview, but you don't have one on Pequannock Ave. Now, when you're coming from Route 23, that bend around there, a lot of kids are on that street now, and you got about at least 10 kids on that street that play in the street, and they go around by Bruno's, and somebody's gonna get hit. I mean, they come from Northampton Turnpike, and they start romping on that gas, and they fly all the way to 23. I mean, it's not my position to like chase people, but I'm getting sick and tired of it.
That's a dangerous
People are
area.
flying. I mean, it's not supposed to be 35. It should be 25 on that street.
We should look
And
at
you got 35. You got speed bumps on one road over here.
Yeah, just one.
There's one road. I don't know who lives on that road, but
None of us.
you know what? I need some help.
Yeah, just help. If
I
I
do. We had this speed. What do you call them things?
the camera,
The radar?
the radar,
Yeah, the radar.
Had them. They don't work.
Right,
It works for a little while.
Only while they're there,
They're
yeah.
making a right next to Bruno's or a left next to Bruno's.
If you
and
make a
taking
left
that
into
going straight out to
Bruno's, yeah, you go
23.
straight down. There's a stop sign there. But I'm saying if you're coming from like Tiff's and going down Pequannock
Right.
Ave, and then you get around that bend right there, that's a bad bend. I mean,
There's
jam
nothing
fence
there right
cuts,
now?
huh?
There's nothing there right now? No type of sign, like a
There's
slow
no stop sign
or...
coming this way, but it would stop a lot of
You know, the
people.
traffic
Yeah.
department take a look at it.
If I can just address a couple of things. One, as crazy as it sounds, stop signs can't be used as traffic calming
Right.
devices. They control an intersection, they're not a traffic calming device.
Right.
But based upon your concerns, what needs to happen is, and if they already had something out collecting information about speed, we need to do a study of the area to determine what's appropriate.
Yeah, but we've
If the
been doing it for
warrants,
years.
no, I know, but we need to get data, because if what are known as warrants within the Department of Transportation are met, a stop sign can be installed. If the warrants aren't met, there may be other creative solutions that can be implemented. County has to be involved, it's county road, but if you don't mind, let me have a conversation, you get more detail about times and what you're seeing. That way I can get the PD out there, at least to do
Really
initial
around rush time.
enforcement.
Around rush time, from like 4 o'clock
Right.
to like 6 o'clock.
Are they
7
cutting
o'clock.
out to 23 or
Cut
coming from?
both ways, both ways. Jam fence cuts through there all the time. I had to go to their yard and just yell at the guys because they don't even speak English. And I had to go inside and tell them, the super had to come out every day around 4 o'clock and just watch his guys fly down that street, and they don't
He
come down
agreed
that
with
street
you.
no more. They don't come down that street. You know, and I picked up a couple people, man. People give me the finger, I don't care. You know, it's not right, because one of my kids will be coming out my driveway, and that guy's gonna come and you know, they see a blind spot, and
It's a big.
that's it.
I see them a lot speeding
You know?
from 23 up.
Yeah, well, that's
well.
also.
That's a big cut through there.
It's a
Houses
big
over
cut
there,
through.
too.
And for years, people on that street have been complaining, so I'm surprised we haven't looked at a traffic
I mean,
study.
even
So,
though
we need to do some targeted enforcement immediately. I can get that implemented as soon as tomorrow. Make sure you stay safe, though, in your representations. Be careful. And then we need to initiate a traffic study to determine what we can do to help.
yeah, I'm just, you know, it's just too much. I've been there
No, I'm glad you came forward.
almost
Yeah.
11 years, so, you know, I've
No, it's
just been
fun.
watching it for a long time.
I know.
I just don't want no trouble in this town either.
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
not
just-
acceptable.
No,
I
wanna
know
keep them
over the
safe,
years,
that's
we've
it.
added those drive like your kids live
Live
here
here.
signs.
We
you
had
know,
them.
might be.
I bought them. I bought them out of my pocket, put them in front of my things, but, you know.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you're coming from Tiff's, another problem is there's no houses there anymore. So
Right.
the presumption
no houses
is
there.
it's
Not at
just
all.
wide
Yeah,
open.
they pick up speed and they go crazy. No, thank you.
So
Have
please
they
don't leave,
had-
let's exchange information, that way I can touch base with you in the future.
So they had the trailer there? Have they had the one that attaches to the
The telephone pole? Yeah.
pole, and it has the speed limit, and then it flashes what your speed
Yeah,
is?
they did have that.
That's been,
They had that,
they moved
last
it.
summer.
Like, it's
They
only
had
good
that
while it
couple
stays
summers.
there.
Right, yeah.
They've been.
Yeah. As soon as
I
they.
called up a couple times, but, you know, I was like, you know, I'm not getting through to nobody, let me just address you guys.
No, this is the best way.
Traffic study involves the department, the police department working with the engineering department collectively, gather data, review what's appropriate and what's allowable, and then make some changes. So that's what we're going to do.
No, thank you.
All right,
Yeah. No, I'm glad you came.
so, I'm good?
If you want to
Yeah,
give
hang out for a
come on,
comment.
if you want to,
Either
also
shoot me an email with your
There you
contact
go.
information, or if you
Give
want to
him
give me
your
your contact information
Give
after.
him your phone number, and he'll call you.
not with the microphone, no.
Yes,
Frank?
thank you.
That's me.
That's him.
Oh, that's him.
We need
I want
his
your-
contact information.
Write it
Yes, yes.
Hold tight, Frank.
Here, I'll give you 2.
There you go.
Sorry, I paused there for a
Yeah, you're
second.
good at that. You must play cards.
Oh, wait, he's done.
Can you put your address?
Anyway,
too?
I'm
Go
Frank
ahead.
Spizzeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue. I just want to touch on the do not call list. I own a house in Butler, and Butler has that. And they have it at the tax office. When you go in and pay your taxes, they have a table there with all pamphlets and stuff, and I actually have an extra copy of that. I don't know whether you guys have anything like that, but I can drop one off to Carol, and she can give you a copy of it to see how people can fill it out, drop it off at the tax office, and then they put it on the list.
That's in Butler.
It's a Butler.
Yeah, Carol, maybe you
Does it
can
work,
talk to
Frank?
the clerk in Butler and see how they're doing
Yeah, does
it.
it work? Are you on the list?
Yeah, nobody bothers my house.
Good.
But in any case, electronically, you were saying electronically, some of the older people in town are not electronically
Well, the tax office
motivated
is a
to
good
do
way to
that.
get
So a paper thing that you could have when they come in to pay their taxes would be a good place to do that, or the water bill, wherever they're going to make contact with somebody from town.
The first thing that came to mind was tax bills are going to be coming out whenever the state allows us to certify the rate. So that would be a good idea to be able to at least alert people to it.
Yeah.
I think when Ms. Marsh mentioned electronically, that was just one of the means,
Yeah.
not the only means.
Yeah, there has to be more than
sign.
one.
We have
Right.
to-
Some people
we have to
never
address
come
the
in.
whole population. Sure.
All right, I'll drop that off to Carol tomorrow, and then she can give you all a copy of it. The other thing was Mountside Park. I thought the town back a ways bought a quad for the park ranger. Does anybody remember that?
I thought a long time ago, one of the park rangers used to go up there all
Years
the
ago,
time.
I think.
Well, when I was on a special police here in town, we used to use the park rangers 4x4 just to go up to, we used to go up there every night. Because there was tons of party. No, we didn't go to party. We went to break up the parties, but in any case. But it was the same situation. It was beer cans and all that other kind of stuff, and so it's nothing new.
Yeah.
Right.
It's something that's been there for years and years and years, and the kids know it, and they go up there because nobody bothers them.
Yeah, but they clean it up and get the stuff out.
Well, that's the other thing,
We're really going to enforce it.
I think if we catch one or two of them, we fine them, and put it in the paper and say, they were caught doing this and that, might put a little...
Fortunately, we're going to have to, because they're not cleaning it up, and it's a mess. I have not seen a mess like that. Onesie, twosie, something like that, but I mean, the place was...
And leaving a fire
I
pit?
saw your posts on Facebook, so, yeah. And we used to find it a lot of times up there. But in any case, that's... But check on that quad, because rather than using the 4x4 that they have, which is too big to get up in some of those trails, if they had a quad, they could get up in those trails easier to do some patrolling. Of course, they'd have to learn how to ride a quad, but that's another story. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, next on the agenda is minutes for approval. There were many minutes. They were not lengthy, so they weren't too bad to read.
You have a minute for the minutes?
Yeah, anybody have any comments or corrections?
No, we read them.
No?
Want me to make a motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 21st, 2017, December 11th, 2017, December 12th, 2017, December 20th, 2017. And you want me to do 18?
Sure.
March 13th, 2018, March 24th, 2018, special meeting, April 10th, 2018, and April 24th, 2018.
You forgot March 27th.
Did I?
Yeah.
And then we'll just do them all
I'm looking at
together.
the summary, and March 27th, 2000.
Yeah, and Carol, we'll do them all together, but you'll just pull me out of that one, just to make it easy?
April 10th,
Right.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, I believe we have no closed session tonight? Nothing on either side?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn, second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.